That's right. It's me, your little ray of sunshine, Evan Grant, Dallas Morning News, SportsDayDFW.com, with your weekly Rambling Rangers report, or This Week in Rangers Baseball, whatever you want to call it. But what you do need to call the Rangers is a 500 club, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the road back to 500, where the club goes. We're going to talk about Martin Perez and what he has done as the American League's best pitcher. We'll talk about the addition of Josh Smith and perhaps the graduation of some minor leaguers to the big league club and being able to help them. And we will, of course, talk about Eli White's sensational catch on Monday night against Tampa Bay with highlights of my 5 greatest catches I've ever witnessed personally. Because it's all about me. Let's face facts. At least that's what my wife tells me. The kids tell me. It's all about me, Evan Grant, and what you can do for me. But meanwhile, what I can do for you is give you a little bit of insight on the Rangers and how they clawed their way back to 500, which, listen, is not this team's goal. Shouldn't be this team's goal, but it is a first step. And after more than a year of nothing but a losing record, last time they were at 500 was May 9th of 2021. After a year of more of a losing record, after 102 losses last year, after a dreadful start to this season, to claw their way back to 500 by the 1st of June was a significant step. Now, the way Chris Woodward puts it is you've got to walk before you can run, and you've got to run really before you can sprint. And before it's all over with, the Rangers certainly hope to sprint. That may not be this year. That's still down the road. We're 48 games into the season as I record this. But the point of the matter is, after you stumbled out of the gate, you had to find a way to claw yourself back to even. That's the first step. Now that they're even, the Rangers can potentially make up some ground in the American League. Listen, with 6 playoff teams, anything is possible. I don't know what you would project for a playoff team in terms of record, but at 500 now, you can start to. It's more about thriving than it is surviving. For me, the biggest difference has been the pitching. I don't think this team has hit its stride offensively yet. Cole Calhoun had a great May. There have been some other good performances, but let's face facts. The biggest investments were in Marcus Semien, who still goes into June with a 199 batting average. On the cusp of 200 after heating up over the past 10 days or so, but still below 200. Corey Seeger has 11 home runs, but I don't think there's any point in time where you've said, other than maybe the first 2 games of the season, that Corey Seager seemed like he was on a real roll. So the guys who will drive this offense are still kind of finding themselves. We've seen some great defensive plays over the past couple days. White's catch, or Adolis Garcia made a great first inning catch on Tuesday to get the game started. But this defense has not been good. There was a 5-error game in Oakland, very sloppy game in Anaheim that led to a loss. And quite frankly, you take those 2 games, if you can take the errors out of those games and make those Ranger wins, this team's on an absolute roll. I mean, they've won, I believe, as we sit here, 6 of their last 7. They've won 5 in a row at home at Globe Life Field, and they're starting to make Globe Life Field a place where they're a formidable club. But look, let's go back to what has changed. All right, here's what's changed. Pitching, particularly the starting pitching. And obviously all of that starts with Martin Perez, who has been the American League's best pitcher to this point. But I want to show you some numbers here that for me really stand out. If you look at where this club was in April versus May, ERA of 4.57 in April, ERA of 3.45 in May. The strikeout to walk rate, not significantly different. But what is different, dramatically different, is that this team is keeping the ball in the ballpark. Gave up 32 home runs in 3 weeks in May, 17 home runs in 27 games in Let me backtrack. 32 home runs in 3 weeks in April, 17 home runs in 27 games in May. Also, another thing that we didn't learn in my elementary and high school in the great state of Georgia was apparently how to count months of the calendar. But, all right, I got it straight. So, they've kept the ball in the ballpark. They've thrown better quality strikes. They have made opponents put the ball in play. They've adjusted. They aren't striking out a ton of guys, which could be somewhat worrisome down the road. If they need to pile up strikeouts in tough situations, they've got to show the ability to do that. But right now, what the Rangers are doing is pitching to contact and keeping the ball in the ballpark. They've got two of the best ground ball pitchers in baseball in Martin Perez and Dane Dunning. And so what you see is that the starter's ERA has dropped well over a run from 5.11 in April. There I go again. To 3.48 in May. That is keyed by Martin Perez, and one of the best months a pitcher has had in Rangers history. 3 starts of at least 7 scoreless innings in May. Finished it off with 3 hit shutout performance for over 7 innings against Tampa Bay on Tuesday. That included retiring the last 16 batters he faced after getting hit by a line drive in the right shin. And for me, one thing that stands out is that Perez almost looked like Adrian Beltre out there on Tuesday night. And in that regard, I'm talking about a guy who seemed to perform better after he looked like he was hurt. The line drive that he took off his shin might have knocked a guy out, or younger Martin Perez. But one thing that Martin mentioned in a conversation with me last week is he specifically mentioned Adrian Beltre. Adrian was out at the Rangers-Angels game in Anaheim last week. The two of them visited, and Martin and I just had a conversation on the bench. I didn't have my notepad out at that point in time. We just started talking, and he started going through some differences in his life as a pitcher over the last 3 years. He related how Jake Odorizzi helped him learn the cutter when he was in Minnesota, and that the pitching coaching staff there then took over on that. That he had a good conversation with Pedro Martinez about strikes versus quality strikes after he got to Boston, and that it started to finally sink into him what Adrian Beltre talked about when they were teammates here, and how Adrian was so prepared and how he was able to kind of dial things up another notch when he got hurt, really focus in on performance and kind of blocking out the pain. And that's what I saw on Tuesday night, was a guy who did that. And after the game, I asked him about it, and he referenced that. And he said that, it was something that, he reiterated that it's something that he felt like he learned from Beltre, and that he's absorbed it as he's gotten older, and that he did kind of put it into play. So, if he does not win American League Pitcher of the Month for May, there will be something dreadfully wrong with the system, because he has been by far the best pitcher in the American League really all year, but certainly in May. So hats off to Martin. Also wanted to talk to you about the Rangers' big call-up of the week, which was infielder Josh Smith after they put Brad Miller on the IL. Josh Smith was one of the players acquired in the Joey Gallo trade, which right now is looking like an absolute steal. Glenn Otto is in the Rangers rotation, performing at least adequately as a back-end starter, and that's everybody needs that. Josh Smith is now in the big leagues. He's reached base 5 times in his first 2 games. All he has done in the minor leagues after the Rangers acquired him this spring, and again in these first couple of 48 hours or so in the big leagues, is impressed the Rangers as a guy with incredible amount of competitive drive. I hate to use the baseball term of gamer, but he seems to have that attribute. And listen, I don't pride myself on being a scout or an evaluator of talent, but I do feel like there are certain players that you come across that have a certain aura a certain confidence that they belong in the big leagues. They're not starstruck, um, and that you feel like they're going to reach their ceiling. Um, some guys who have struck me that way were the first that I ever really came across in that manner was Michael Young. I thought Mark Teixeira was similar in that regard. Felt the same way about Isaiah Counter-Falefa. And I feel that way about Josh Smith upon first glance. Just seems like he's comfortable being in the big leagues, and he's driven to be the best that he can be. And it's easy to say that, and I think everybody is driven to be the best they can be. But there are guys that certainly have, for lack of a better term, that extra gear. What I really liked over the past 2 days, the Rangers have had Smith in the lineup, is that they've constructed a lineup with Josh Smith hitting eighth and Eli White hitting ninth, and you've got two guys who can kind of manipulate the ball a little bit, play a little small ball if necessary, bunt. Eli White's had bunt hits over the past 2 days. They've both run and stolen bases over the past 2 days. They've been on base combined 10 times in those 2 days. Gives them a dynamic look at the bottom of the order, particular speed-wise in particular. And if you can then turn it over to the top of a lineup that's got, for the Rangers' purposes, hopefully a heating up Marcus Semien, a heating up Corey Seager, you've got a very dynamic, I'm overusing today's word, dynamic, very dynamic look there. And I think it's paid dividends for them in the first 2 days that they've had Josh Smith up. We'll see how long that lasts, and we'll see if this is a guy who's going to stick here. But the Rangers intend to play Josh Smith while he's here, and he's got the opportunity to create more playing time for himself. Chris Woodward played him against the lefty, even though he's a left-handed hitter. He said he's got to earn at-bats against lefties, but he's going to give him that chance to earn more at-bats against lefties. Took 2 hit-by pitches on Tuesday. One of them really kind of caught his wrist, and it was swollen after the game, but he seems to be okay. But the guy is not afraid of the situation. A very significant development. And if you look around now, the Rangers this year have already graduated Glenn Otto, Sam Huff, Josh Smith to the majors. Don't know who would be next on the list. Certainly, if he was healthy, Josh Young would get a look. There will be opportunity at some point in time for more pitchers. But if you can integrate 3 prospects into your roster each year that pay dividends, you've done a good job of player development. So that's another optimistic development for the Rangers. I'm sure that if you can watch YouTube, I'm sure that you have seen Eli White's catch in the first inning of Monday night's game with Tampa Bay. And it got me thinking, what are the best catches I've ever seen? I've covered baseball for over 30 years now, going back to part-time covering the Atlanta Braves in the early 90s and the Florida Marlins. And for the last 26 years, you have not been able to get rid of me on the Rangers. So, without further ado, here's our top 5 catches I've ever witnessed live. I'm not going to count anything that I saw on TV, only catches that I was present for. So, number 5, the liner to Shields robs Brian Goodwin of the Los Angeles Angels in 2019. I made the mistake on Twitter that night in Anaheim of saying, hey, maybe this rivals Gary Matthews' catch. I didn't think it was quite the same, but I thought it was in that class. Loud round of Twitter boos. People were very admirable of the catch, but did not put it in the same category as the Gary Matthews catch, which most people seem to define as the best catch, or at least until this week, the best catch in Rangers history. The liner went back on this ball great, got up on the wall really, really well. And I give him extra points for looking back at Brian Goodwin and taking a bite out of the baseball like it was an apple. I never got the significance of that, but artistic touch. Number 4, Otis Nixon, a Ranger, but not in this instance, in 1992 going up over the wall at Atlanta Fulton County Stadium to steal a home run from Andy Van Slyke of the Pittsburgh Pirates. This was in the middle of a Braves-Pirates rivalry in the early 90s when both teams were really good. What stood out to me was you watch Otis go up on the fence here. I always remembered exactly where he put his spikes and the hole he left about 3 feet up on the outfield padding as he then pushed himself higher onto the wall to catch this ball from Andy Van Slyke. Now, is it in the same class of the catches that are going to come above it? I'm not quite sure, but I was a young lad. I had a little bit of hair left. It was at that point in time a spectacular catch. Number 3, Eli White on Monday. This was a great catch in so many ways. Most people that I've talked to seem to believe that at its apex, Eli's glove was about 11 feet, maybe even a little bit more than that, off the ground. Went way above the 6-foot-high fence in left field to steal this ball from G-Man Choi. Couple things here. Eli's way above this fence, but that is a 6-foot-high fence. So compared to maybe some other catches, the fence is not as high right there. One thing that the Rangers wanted to do with those fences when they built them was create the ability for some of these great catches. And it's worked. Sometimes it's worked against them, but it's worked. There have been a tremendous number of fantastic catches at Globe Life Field that we could cite. What I really like about this play is I think Eli did everything perfectly. The route to the ball is perfect. The timing of the leap is perfect. You don't see him having to sprint, having to make anything up. He put himself in a great position to catch the ball and made a terrific catch. Number 2, Kirby Puckett. World Series against Atlanta in 1991, stealing a home run from Ron Gant. I believe this was Game 6. I lose track of some things on the exact timing, but this game was in Minneapolis. Puckett hit a walk-off home run in Game 6 to send it to Game 7. Again, this one gets points because of the moment. World Series. Just a tremendous catch going high up onto that wall and into the plexiglass. Again, kind of with his back to the ball to make that catch. I felt like that was really the turning point in the final 2 games. And the number 1 catch, I mean, was there ever any doubt? Listen, this Gary Matthews catch, stealing the ball from Mike Lamb in 2006, the sprint to the fence, the twist of the body, almost a 360 in midair, and how far above the wall. I believe that wall was 8 foot at the ballpark in Arlington, or Globe Life Park, or Ameriquest. I think it was Ameriquest Field at that point in time. I think his extension and where he grabbed that ball was just a little bit higher than Eli's ball. That game, the Rangers were getting blown out. It was just a terrific play, but that is such a fantastic athletic play that for me, I think it will always go down as number 1. It literally took my breath away. Eli White made me gasp a little bit on Monday night, but this catch just left my jaw on the ground. An absolute fantastic play by Gary Matthews. Still see it in my head. Love to occasionally go back and watch it, and now you've watched it too. So that's highlights for this week. We're getting very fancy here. Graphics, highlights, all kinds of stuff. Also very long. But thanks for spending time with me. If you like this, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please like it in the YouTube channel. Please comment. And if you've got any thoughts or questions, send them along to egrant@dallasnews.com. Until next week, so long, everybody.